And what we're doing right now is creating content. But how are you, Christopher?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. We got an interesting topic, don't we, today, though?
Yeah. There was an interesting podcast talking about something, and I'm not going to take the quote credit for the quote, but I'm going to take a good old Russell. It was on Russell Brunson's podcast, and she has an unbelievable audience, really big on TikTok. She teaches people short form content to make lots of money. But she said by 2030, the next Bitcoin is your personal brand. And I
Hmm.
trust that she said this, not anybody else, meaning I'm not going to take credit for that one.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about, but that's personal brand. But lots of businesses don't know, why do I need to create content? I want to hide behind, away from the camera. I don't want to be around at all. I'd rather just not even do anything. And then the directors of marketing have difficulty figuring out how to create content. They try to pull things out, but that's not what UX Brite does in Savant, right?
Not at all. I think the better term for it is an authentic automated content machine. And what that really means truly is content you really enjoyed making. It's relevant, it's engaging for your audience, and you're doing it on a consistent basis to where people can find us. People can find our reels. They're learning things. We're providing undeniable value up front. So then that way you know who we are. We talk about this all the time. Like your brand and your reputation exceeds who you are. Like I can make 100 cold calls in a day, but nothing is more powerful than a video that's been ran on the algorithm and been shown to millions of viewers. There's just no better way to get my word out there. So for me to ignore content in 2025 as a business, I'm just shooting myself in the foot.
Right. And it used to be that we would stick behind our CV. We would stay behind what our company does. But the
Mm-hmm.
problem is that's not enough anymore. And
No.
I don't, I mean, I was ready for this 15 years ago, but the thing was I was really more personal brand, but I also had a business. I think that it's very difficult to go to the local business and say that you're a chiropractor and say, guess what? You got to start creating content. Well, my competitors aren't creating content. Well, they will be soon because it will be just like a website at one point.
Right.
Everyone
Uh
has to have one.
yeah. I actually just saw something recently. Gary V, we love that guy and what he has to say. And he actually says something that is very, very critical. We're shifting from this economy of that and what into an interest economy, meaning I'm going to ascribe to the content that I really enjoy listening and digesting. And that's the way that I find new people and new brands and that sort of thing. So if people aren't subscribed to the type of business world that you're in and they don't have a content way to get inside of it, then how can they develop interest in a meaningful way? That's the biggest piece that I took away from that. And it's like, wow, we really are in this mode in the internet where everybody's finding their tribes and camps. And you should ideally be a vocal enough voice to say, "Hey, I'm over here. Come follow me." Right. So I think that's the key thing businesses need to understand now. Content marketing is not an optional strategy. It's going to be essentially core to survival
And
in
I
the
see even
next
I
few
saw even Neil
years.
Patel making a shift, even though he says, "Well, I'm only getting 10% of my business," and he's talking really big companies from
Yeah.
my personal brand. But now he says, "I'm going to go out and speak more." So he's speaking out of both sides. And there's a shout out to Neil Patel. I love Neil. I mean, I think Neil brings authenticity compared to a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the other guys that are pretty much programmed, scripted. Neil's not scripted, and that's what I like about Neil Patel is he's not scripted. Eric Sue's not scripted. Some of these other guys are scripted, but they're really good at what they do. But he's not looking to coach anybody. He's saying it.
Yeah.
But what he's saying is out of 10%, guys, 10% that he was getting the business from, he wouldn't get that 10%. Then the 10% is huge. And he said, I wouldn't be getting invited to these things if it wasn't for my personal brand. It doesn't lead to business, it leads to opportunity. That's where the discussion comes, where your traffic comes versus your brand. Very interesting thing when I started syndicated radio 15 years ago, hired a syndicator. He said, "Well, how am I going to measure my ROI?" I asked him. He says, "It's going to be, do you have more business?"
Mm.
And when I hired a booker for celebrity interviews, do you have more business? It's not going to be directly from that. And I did have more business. People more know, like, and trust me more. And so you can go so many different levels. And I think, Christopher, that's why you need to talk to somebody at UX Brite like yourself, is people can go so many different ways to get business, but you ultimately have to have somebody in your corner that can create it and also can consult you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've had a few guests on our podcast too. The biggest thing, especially if you're a solopreneur, is you're going to be the main creator of the content. And you need to figure out how to speak to the market at scale, right? There can't be any uh 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 extra avatar or brand that's going to do it. No, you need authentic voices, right? An AI script or an AI thing isn't going to do the trick nowadays. Everybody sees the copy and paste now. So how are you going to differentiate yourself? We talk about that too all the time, the brand differentiators, right? And I think to that authenticity point you were talking about, I think that's the best way to speak to people at this point in time. To know that you're human, you may have made mistakes, you're relatable. It's all connected. I enjoy listening to the radio show, the Neil Haley show, because I connect with Neil Haley and with his
Yeah,
ideas. Right.
exactly. And it's like, and it's so crazy how it used to be. It used to be numbers. The bigger you are, the more business you have. That's not true. It's who is following you. And that is a hard thing for somebody who would collect digital assets for years of followers, where I have
Hmm.
250,000 plus social media followers across all my platforms. And that's not counting my listeners. But that doesn't mean sales. I can't go ask my 250, I can't go my 55,000 on Twitter, my other 30,000 on Twitter, my other 14,000 on Instagram, my other 50,000 on Facebook and say, by the way, guys, today, please give me $1. I
Right.
wish. So
Yeah.
that's where you guys are ahead of the curve if you didn't do the BS that I did.
Yeah. Well,
If I didn't make the mistakes that I did, but it was different. It used to be your social media followers or your social media followers. They're not anymore.
right.
That's
Well,
that's why content's so important to create to your ideal audience.
absolutely. Yeah, sales and marketing, they're twins. They're not exactly the same, but you need both in order for a successful business to happen, right? And oftentimes people look at their marketing to be their sales a lead for every single thing, and I don't think that's the way you're supposed to look at marketing. Yes, it will help you with
Oh, it's
sales,
yeah.
but it's not going to be that shouldn't be your end game, right? It
and
should
and and so many people that say this are the best. Okay, Alex Ramosi says for every dollar in ad spend, he gets $3 back. That is not the norm. That is somebody who's a genius that spends tons of money to make money. It's almost gambling in certain aspects. If you
true.
except the gambling is a little bit better, but if you invest a lot of money in your personal brand, not $500 a month, like Alex spends $100,000 in his video editing a month alone, just in that. So what I'm saying is, and Neil Patel spends 10, 20, 30 grand. All these guys spend so much money in video production, all these things. So you can't say, well, we're going to do the same kind of marketing as they do and it's going to work. Or I'm going to have my video perform as well as their video. No, you got to spend money to make money. It's
That's
the good
right.
old age adage. And if you don't spend any money, you're never going to make any money.
Absolutely. Yeah. How can I expect to get results that I've never had by doing the same thing over and over?
Right. And this is where the challenge is, that there's so many thought leaders out there that they want to, and I call it, I only listen to this guy and nobody else. And that's the challenge. But when we talk about content, you got to create content. You got to know who you are, know, like, and trust you, and look at your competitors. Last thing, you got to look at your competitors and
Very
say to
true.
yourself, what are your competitors doing? And are they doing it better than me? If they are, I got to go ahead and make those changes. But if they're not, you're already way ahead of the curve. Because at one point, they're all going to do it. All of them.
Absolutely.
We don't
Yeah.
know when, but they will.
Yeah. And considering now that podcasting, right? Most of our brands, other brands are doing this.
No, we are, and this
Right.
is, I'm so happy to know there's only 5 million podcasts registered worldwide and only 2.5 million active. Guess how many people are on TikTok? 2 billion worldwide or more, 3 billion. Same with Facebook, same with Instagram, and the same with YouTube. Podcasting's not even there. I don't know why. I think it's the best way with not a big audience to make money compared to any of those other platforms, but it's a lot harder.
Well,
Why?
here's where that automated authentic content machine comes in, and what you've brilliantly positioned yourself as into doing is providing it as a way to create the short-term content that then goes on to these
Yeah,
networks
and
that
I'm the
then
first
takes all the
person
cash
that
flow.
cuts the stupid ass guest out. I mean, host. I don't want my ass on there. I want Chris talking. Okay, because people don't want to see a back and forth. If you're following Christopher Richards on social media or you're following UX Brite, you don't want to see somebody who's not part of the UX Brite band unless it's like a group, like the Savant Group. Yeah, we want to see them. This is the mistake people make. I'm telling you, Chris, the side by side stuff does not perform as well as a personal brand. A selfie
Interesting.
doesn't perform as well, performs way better than a static image of a business. And that's the mistake. People want stories, people want authenticity. They don't want to see a back and forth podcast. I'm telling you, watch
Great.
if you look at the performances. But guess what? No one's doing what I guess Savant and UX Bright, and I guess I am. But I came up with this because who cares about the question that was asked? That's in your copy. But no one will follow that. You know why? Because we want to be the nerds that follow exactly the blueprint of what everyone else is doing. I don't follow that rule. Sorry, I don't.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah, and so you Google yourself. If you consider yourself pretty big, ask Google if you are something. I did Google it. Neil Haley. Is Neil Haley a celebrity? They said, oh, yes, he is, and put all this stuff down. If you can go ahead and do that on Gemini and they say you are, you're in good shape. But if not, you got a lot of work to do. I have a lot of work too. I need to get on Wikipedia. I want to be on Wikipedia. I need my MBD to be up to the lower than million now. There's so many goals I set for myself because you got to continue to step up the bar. But you don't compare yourself to Alex Ramosi, Gary V, uh,
yeah.
Russell Brunson. Oh my gosh, I need to be getting this many views. If you look
Yeah,
at those
no,
guys, you're going to be
comparison would be
making
the
a
thief of joy. Absolutely. Yeah.
yes.
These
That's probably
brands,
why a lot of people don't create.
right. It took these creators years to get to the position where they are today. And we're talking about they were starting their podcast, what, 2009, 2008,
That's
somewhere
what I
around that
did.
line.
2009,
Right.
2008.
So that's so you're here because you've been in the game the longest, right?
Yeah, but I'm not. I didn't do it the way that those
Uh,
guys did it because I'm laser not focused. But
well,
I am now. But I did it the way I did it my way. And no one else is interviewing top celebrities like having Paul Gosselaar on and Shanola Hampton and tomorrow having this baseball player and all these stars and different people. But at the end of the day, you got to work hard and put it out there. But
yeah,
businesses become a face of the brand. And guess
absolutely.
what? Christopher has everything else by showing you by going where?
Go to uxbrite.com. You can check us out on LinkedIn and our website.
All right. Appreciate it, Christopher. Thanks again. You're
Thank you.
listening and watching a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show.